Gentlemen, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We need to have an election of chairmanship for this annual meeting.
I nominate Tim to be the chairman of this meeting.
Second that.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We need to have approval of the agenda as an order of business. So we need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as order of business.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We need approval of the annual meeting for 2014 and 2015 from Sally.
I'll move to approve the annual meeting minutes of 2014-15.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Superintendent's report. Carrie, please.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Carrie Dassel, and I am honored to be serving as Superintendent and Educational Leader of the Plymouth School District and to be making my third annual meeting report to the district and our community. I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve the Plymouth community as we strive to stand above all in our educational success. Tonight, I would like to take the opportunity to familiarize the board and the community with our strategic plan, our progress on that plan, and our long-range goals. As most of you are already aware, our strategic plan is actually a four-part plan to support our four pillars of excellence: our academic excellence pillar, our extracurricular pillar, our community engagement pillar, and our financial responsibility pillar. These pillars and their corresponding plans were developed throughout the course of the past 3 years, and they define our path to excellence in which the Plymouth School District will continue to pursue. When addressing the staff this year at the Back to School In-Service, we highlighted our four pillars and the accomplishments and expectations of those pillars. One thing that was apparent was that the success of each pillar strongly relies or contributes to the success of all pillars. For example, the academic pillar of excellence states that students should be able to apply knowledge and skills consistent with the ever-evolving 21st century learning requirements, which means that all students will be prepared to enter their post-high school experience ready to pursue personal success after graduation. In order for us to reach this goal, we know that the academic pillar will need support from all three pillars. For example, one thing we have seen in the Plymouth School District is that when students are not only academically engaged, but also engaged in extracurricular activities, their success in school increases. At the present time, the percent of participation in extracurricular activities is approximately 85%. We know that with the fruition of our goal to have 100% of students engaged in the extracurricular activities and to increase the level and options at the middle school, we will be able to positively impact our academic goal to see that each student leaves with a strong education that prepares them for their choice of career. With an increase of engagement in extracurricular activities, we will also anticipate an increase in our graduation rate, which is presently 96%, a goal that has continued to increase over the past years. To also ensure that each child fulfills their career goal, we need to be sure that we have the best teachers and staff engaging with our students on a day-to-day basis. We know from studying years of research that the single most important factor in the school that contributes to the success of a student is a highly qualified teacher in the classroom. The strategic plan of the academic pillar, which focuses on building the capacity of our teachers in the classroom, could not be achieved without the support of our financial pillar, which has defined our priorities and fiscal behaviors. This has allowed us to provide high-quality professional development for our teachers, as well as important resources to assist the teachers with their curriculum and instruction. This year in the Plymouth School District, 33 staff members received advanced degrees or certifications to improve their skills and knowledge. The benefits of building this capacity in our staff will help us to build a stronger education system for the students and the community of Plymouth School District. Our academic pillar also requires us to build partnerships with technical colleges, four-year colleges, and businesses. At the present time, Plymouth High School offers 58 credits that can be transferred to four-year colleges for students after they graduate, and we offer 20 transcripted credits through Lakeshore Technical College. And because of our community engagements pillar goal to build relationships with our community and businesses, this year we are able to offer high-level courses in agriculture, food science, and biotechnical engineering. These exciting new educational opportunities are a result of the support from the Plymouth Education Foundation and contributions from our community and businesses, which have allowed us to build the new Food Science and Agriculture Center, a center that is equipped with state-of-the-art facilities including aquaponics, hydroponics, a computerized microgrow system, and 6 science labs for biotechnical research. Many of these accomplishments are a result of listening to our businesses and community. As defined by our academic pillar and our community engagement pillar, listening to our community and businesses helped us to realize that we need to provide the right educational opportunities which emulate our local businesses. As a result, the investments made in our students can eventually give back to our community as more of our students choose to return to Plymouth, where they can be gainfully employed and raise their families, which can only enhance and allow our community to grow. In most public schools across the country, we measure ourselves by the results of standardized assessments. Plymouth School District does well in this area. On our 3rd through 8th grade assessments, we continue to score above the state average. We also continue to score above the state average on our ACT exams and most other measures. These assessments are important because it can benchmark our success on a larger scale. However, in the Plymouth School District, we also believe that the measures of success should be celebrated not only through an aggregated score, but in a more humanistic manner through individual and group accomplishments. Examples of these successes are our 2 FFA students who will compete in the national competition, our middle school student who advanced to the state geography bee, and our Future Business Leaders of America team who just after 2 years were able to compete in the national competition. We also saw our Plymouth High School forensics team rise to the top of a field of more than 75 students from 16 Wisconsin high schools to win the Lakeland College Forensics Accounting Competition. And finally, students from Riverview Middle School swept the top 3 places in the 2014 Patriots Pen Youth Essay Writing Contest sponsored by the Plymouth VFW Post 5612. Our staff has seen similar successes. Greg Gritt, one of our technical education teachers, was awarded the Technical Education Career Path Teacher Award by the New Manufacturers Alliance. And this year, 3 of our teachers have been asked to present at state and national conventions due to their expertise and respect in their field. Walter Taylor, our agriculture teacher, was awarded the Teacher's Turnkey Award and a national award through Teachers of Agriculture Association. And finally, a team of teachers from Horizon Elementary School were presented with the Barb Preen Parent Educator Award at the annual State Circles of Life Conference for educators and families of children with disabilities. These are just some of the accomplishments from our students and staff, not to mention the multiple letters I have received complimenting our students and staff for their kindness, generosity, sportsmanship, and their compassion. Our accomplishments are many, and our plan is good, but we know it needs to be better. As we move forward with our strategic plan, we will continue to hold ourselves up to high expectations. This year, we will be implementing a new manufacturing course where we will see students work together to identify problems, create solutions to the problems, and work with patent attorneys to understand how to invent and patent new products that will solve those problems. We know that our students can push themselves to that next level of excellence, and we are committed to providing an outstanding education system to help them do this. But we can't do this alone. As I have mentioned before, I believe that a school district is something which is part of a shared community effort. Schools are critical to a community, and our community engagement plan is designed for us to work together for the common good of our community and its children. At the end of the 2014-15 school year, we had held 23 Panther Talks, reaching more than 200 people in our community. Through these talks, we learned what our community values, and we have a list of them. The top 3 values were family, education and learning, and faith. Not only do we use these values when planning and decision-making, but we consider ourselves fortunate to be part of a community that sees the value of a strong education system, and this is evident in so many areas of our district. One example is a new grant program through the Plymouth Education Foundation. This program will help spur ingenuity, creativity, and excellence in our schools and community. The completion of the Food Science and Agriculture Center, which was funded through donations from our community, is another example. And you only have to stand on Mill Street once during the homecoming parade to understand how important this school and the spirit it brings is to our community. Finally, as we come here tonight, a large part of our focus is on our financial pillar of excellence. In this pillar, we have developed many strategies that will allow us to move forward in a fiscally responsible manner. It helps us to focus on how we can better educate our children, maintain our facilities, and continue to be responsible with our district's resources. Our financial pillar assures that fiscal responsibility is something that is integrated in all we do. Tonight, we are being asked to approve the local tax levy that will then combine with state and federal resources to fund educational programs and operations for this district for the 2015-16 school year. This year's budget is the board's and the district leadership teams and the entire faculty and staff's best effort at this time for providing a plan to utilize our resources to meet the goals of our strategic plan. The Plymouth School District has always been one that exemplifies excellence. We lead the way, and I believe the strategic plan that we have developed and continue to update reflects this innovative spirit. I thank John Miller for his efforts and talent of developing and managing our budget. I thank our school board, our administrators, and all staff for their dedication and service to our school district. And finally, I thank you, the Plymouth community, for your support of this outstanding school district.
Thank you. Thank you, Carrie. At this time, it's the school board president's address, and what we're going to do is double team you, double tag you on the 4 pillars of excellence. Academic excellence for the 21st century is our #1 pillar. We expect every student to be able to apply knowledge and skills for his future learning requirements. B, the extracurricular activities. This board has placed great value in this. We continue to struggle to finance our extracurricular activities, for we have seen the improvements of our through academic performance by having extracurricular activities. Our community engagement. Our Food Science and Agricultural Center could have only occurred through direct efforts of our educational foundation with the work of our community. For these efforts, our board cannot express in words our deepest appreciation. We are about to continue our Panther Talks for ongoing engagements to this community, and we hope to have community input. Our financial responsibility. We are continuing to try to maintain and improve our financial position. I have been working with our state legislators through our legislative breakfast, and we are going to continue to have discussions with them to somehow to try to improve the state aid formula. I have gone through several scenarios with the state aid. For our county, the state aid formula was founded in, I believe, 1989, around that area. And it was a good formula. It was a bipartisan formula, but it was a political formula. And over the years, it has had problems. It started off with the frugal communities such as Plymouth not receiving as much state aid, and over the past 20 years, according to statistics from the DPI, our base equalization aid per student has dropped 20% compared to the average. And this is the base formula. It doesn't include anything else over the time frame. If we take just if we just look at the DPI's chart and we go over the districts that have the same amount of students that we have, we show that with these districts of Marinette, Medford area, Monroe, New London, Port Washington, Soxville, and Portage, and Rice Lake, these communities have a school enrollment of 2,000 to 2,650, which is within our range. And the variation in the percentage of state aid on each one of these districts range from minus 22% to plus 14%. We have to be open to this nonpartisan discussion with both Democrats and Republicans and somehow find out a way to adjust this formula. It doesn't have to be scrapped, it just needs to be amended. John will be going over the current budget that we receive, and also will be explaining state aid. I would like to thank all our employees, the teachers, the aide, and the support staff for a special thanks to our superintendent, our district leadership team, and to John Miller, who keeps us very, very frugal. And here's John.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the 2015-16 annual meeting and budget hearing. The purpose of this meeting is to review the budget and propose a tax levy for the school year we've just begun. At the time of publication, which is necessary for posting of this meeting, which happened to be in early August this year, our operating budget was in deficit by just over $174,000. More than half of this deficit was a result of unfinished work in the nearly $600,000 electrical project that has taken place over the past spring and summer and was designed to draw down fund balance. Since there was still work to do on July 1st, the remainder of that amount, which is roughly $95,000, had to be budgeted in this year's budget. So that created more than half that deficit. Our deficit is also a result of a couple other things. First, our expenses are growing faster than our revenue. We ran a small deficit last year, and the projected revenue is underpaid or slower, growing slower than our expected expenses. And again, we've had to publish this data early. There's been any number of hirings and budget changes that have taken place, and it is at least likely that that deficit will be smaller when the board officially approves the budget in early November, or late October, rather. One thing I can say about our deficit as well is that while we may budget a deficit, we don't, at least internally, have an expectation that we will finish with a deficit. Work doesn't stop on trying to save money when the budget is published and everybody gets to spend everything in there. We continue to shop, we continue to look for ways to cut margins and save money throughout the year, and I think if you go back and compare prior year's budgets to the results, and you can do that on some of the handouts we have tonight, you will see that we always save money from what we budget. Our revenue is based on some facts and assumptions. The state provided us a zero increase in our revenue limit per student this year. Our enrollment trend, however, is trending upward, and we anticipate an enrollment number very similar to last year when we take the count of students this Friday. Thus, what's driving any increase in revenue is actually an increase in the three-year rolling average in the number of students. There is no increase in the category aid of dollars per student this year, and our equalized state aid, however, is expected to slightly increase based on the numbers recently provided by the state of Wisconsin. Our revenues are very much unchanged from that experienced last year. Our local decrease is offset by the state aid increase. Our interdistrict line there is up, but again, that's based on a full roster of open enrollment students, and I can tell you right now, not all of them showed up. So chances are when we have our revenue number, it's going to look very similar to what we've actually experienced in 14-15. The following graphs show sort of the changing percentage of the sources of revenue over time. I could tell you to note two slices of this pie as I flash through these graphs. Our percentage of federal revenue has declined. Often this is blamed on the sequester at the federal government, and you will see that pie chunk shrink as a percentage of our revenue. The state has continued to add actually more equalized aid into the formula, but normally this has been a pass-through to the property tax holder and has not necessarily increased the amount of dollars that the school receives. It's simply that the proportion of state aid to property tax within our revenue cap formula has increased in state aid and decreased in property tax. So if this is the 11-12 one, and you can see those kind of pie changes as I go through these. Their equalized aid actually went backward, but it'll start to come back. And federal revenues dropped to 4%. Oops, we're kind of flashing through. Was up at 6, dropped to 4. Again, property taxes increased. Now they're coming back, and equalized aid is moving back in the other direction. So that's been sort of a give and take relationship. And federal aid was gone from 6 to barely 4% now. Let's move on. Oops. Go back and. Now we can start to take a look at some of our expenses. We are now in the second year of our new teacher and staff compensation systems, or I should say the second year of increases, which has largely replaced the bargain contract with our unions. If all the teachers had remained from year to year, this would cost the district around $200,000 in salary. But teachers do come and go through retirement and finding other opportunities, and this usually decreases our overall salary and wage increase. We have added additional staff this year. There's a few newly paid extracurricular positions in an effort to enhance that pillar. Our fringe benefits have not increased greatly. By serving the staff and tailoring our district medical plan to meet the needs of most, we were able to alter some of our benefits offered and achieve a 0% increase in health insurance this year. Dental rates did go up slightly, but our Wisconsin retirement rate actually will decline in January. Some personnel, however, paid under community education have now had to be absorbed into the general fund by new rules put out by the DPI regarding the administration of community ed. So while you see changes in those numbers, there's a whole lot that goes into those changes. And from last year's experience, our salaries and benefits are up 1.7%. And I guess this sort of details some of the changes I just went through. Our other expenditures are flat and possibly declining. Open enrollment, again, due to other school districts, is showing a large increase. And when we take our count on Friday, that number will also decrease. And overall, otherwise, our budget amounts for services, supplies, equipment, insurance, and financing are less than last year's budgeted amounts and start to reflect some of the savings we achieve when we go to work on this budget. They're still higher, perhaps, than what we actually experienced in some cases, but they are also indicative of the work we do saving money. At the bottom, you can see the effect of the electrical project and how that drew last year's costs and what we still have left to be paid. Overall, our supplies and equipment are expected to grow less than 1%, and that doesn't include, again, that electrical project. These graphs show us the makeup of where we spend our money. Being a people business, roughly 80% of our money goes out in terms of salary and benefits. Contracted services is utilities, buses, basically anything we buy that's not from an employee, and we have a really small budget when it comes to stuff. Supplies and equipment is only 5 or 6% of our total budget. So there's not a lot of areas we can save money outside of salary and benefits. And you'll see that this graphs, while it varies a percent or two, changes almost not at all over the time. Actually, I don't know why that grew and got smaller and larger, but it's very static. Just to mention open enrollment, because we do this budget in August, we're always looking at the best case for students entering the district, or all of the students who applied, and taking all of the students who applied to leave the district, and we know both numbers will decrease. So we're always overstating both our revenue and expenses, and in the end, they just kind of march down together. So we get to the same bottom line, typically, from that respect. One thing that's good that's happened in open enrollment, however, is for a while, basically from '09 to about 2 years ago, we had more outbound students than inbound students. Thus, our costs for outbound students were greater than our costs for inbound students. At this point now, it's safe to say open enrollment is adding dollars to a revenue stream more so than it's sending out, and that helps our bottom line. And certainly is a good testament to what kind of education we have here and people recognizing that they want to come here even if they don't live in our district. The dollars do increase every year because some years the state has increased the allowance for per student what you get paid to and from the other districts, and typically our population of these students in both directions will increase as well. We can move on to some of the other funds mentioned in the annual meeting book. Debt service funds, I think we've had a really good history with in the past few years. Last year, again, we undertook a refinancing of one of our debt issues, and that will again save taxpayers about $35,000 per year for at least the next 4 years while that debt is paid out. Prior to that, I think about 3 years prior to last year, about 4 years ago, we did a similar refinancing of a different portion of our debt, and that saved the taxpayers nearly $65,000 per year. So if we take that whole Riverview debt that was issued, I think 10 or 11 years ago now, and we are now paying $100,000 less back than that original issue would have cost us. And that goes right to the taxpayer. It doesn't come back to the district. It's simply an amount we levy and pay to the bondholders. Our hot lunch program had a pretty tough year. There were a lot of new federal regulations that I'm sure you've maybe heard or read about in the news. This dealt with portion size and menu offerings, and popular items like ice cream went away from schools being able to sell it. And another thing happened is that because of our costs, we were required this year to increase the price of meals by 10 cents per meal so that we could at least match what the government is giving us for free and reduced meals. This actually doesn't help our revenue stream. Every time we have increased the cost of meals, we sell less meals. And it frankly, while you think a price increase would bring in more revenue to the district, it actually brings in less. So our program gets more and more dependent on the free and reduced part of the program. Our program is solvent, but we did have a loss last year, and I guess if you stay for the second part of the meeting, you will see that our goal is no longer to have a monstrously profitable hot lunch program, but one that can sustain itself. And with the new regulations, that may be more realistic. But we still have $53,000 in fund balance, so I'm sure we could go on like we had last year for at least a couple more years. Community education ran quite similarly to the previous year, but was quite a beneficiary of some new rules put out by the DPI. Again, we will ask for a $200,000 levy to support the overhead of community education, but many of the programs generate revenue to cover their own costs, and these are largely for the administration as well as the line items you see down there. The middle school extracurricular program, which we moved there, I believe, in 2009. Costs of like the nutrition and wellness person that works in all aspects of our district, community ed overhead. But like our daycares and those things do have their costs covered. The second part of this presentation is a discussion of the tax levy and how we calculate it. And just last Friday, I learned something new, which makes while we will present a simplified version tonight of how we calculate a tax levy, the tax levy just got more complicated. We now have a private school voucher program in this state, and those students will now be counted, or I should say the new students in the private school voucher program from the Plymouth School District, of which there are some, will now be counted in our revenue cap. How the state's going to do that, they're still creating methods so it can get on this year's tax levy, but they did not yet have a worksheet available of how that's going to happen. So what they're going to do for this year is just write in a special exemption of what that value is, and then deduct whatever state aid portion we have to send out from our aids to those schools. However, because I still feel confident in discussing how we calculate this tax levy in a simplified manner, because tonight's request for levy, because we don't know specifically what our enrollment is, and many other factors for the tax levy, what you pass tonight is an estimate, and probably won't vary by more than 1% either way, but certainly will not be as pure as the formula in the book that we have right now, or in, I guess, the ways we presented it, because they're going to be inventing things as we go along here, quite honestly. To get to the simplified levy, or our good estimate, we simply take the 3-year rolling average, which, using the last 2 years of experience and simply duplicating that for the third year, we have approximately 2,247 students. We know that our dollars per student next year will be $91.85.34. We do have a audit adjustment. We had an enrollment audit this year, probably the first one in several years, and miscounted a few summer school students, so there's going to be a small penalty on our revenue cap for taxes that we made the prior year based on those students. And the result is our overall revenue cap. Our revenue cap last year was slightly smaller, and again, since the dollars per student isn't increasing at all, it's totally driven by the increase in the number of students. Our equalized aid is a number given to us by the state. They make an early estimate in July. That's what we use for the annual meeting book. They will come out, I believe, on October 15th with the actual number. But our October estimate is based on the expenses we've turned into that point, and we are one of the minority of districts, I believe, a large minority of districts, that's going to receive an increase in equalized aid this year, and the DPI estimate was up 1.6%. Our projected revenue limit, thus, is taking that, our projected taxes is determined by taking that projected revenue limit, subtracting our equalized aid estimate, subtracting a small portion for computer aid, and we get our allowable levy for our revenue cap. And that allowable levy is split into two parts: the Fund 10 levy, which supports our general operations, and the Fund 38 levy, which is a small debt service payment we make for refinancing the Wisconsin retirement system debt imposed on the district some probably 15 or 16 years ago. We're getting close to the point where we won't have to have that levy. I think probably within the next 5 years that will go away and all the money will be available for Fund 10. If we compare the 2 years, last year to this year, we can see that the estimate right now is for our total levy to actually decrease. That's actually down 0.46%. That number to me is so close that I don't want to be at this meeting and tell the taxpayers that you are definitely going to get a tax decrease, because we don't know the enrollment, we don't know necessarily the effect of that private school voucher part. I would say that number is probably within 1% of what we will get, and that means there could either be a very slight increase or perhaps even a larger decrease. But for the purpose of this meeting, I would say in general we have a very flat levy. I do also know that our property valuations did go up, I think it was 2.3% of overall the district, although I will also say that townships varied widely. Some went down as much as 8%, some went up as much as 4 or 5%. So it's likely that your tax rate will actually decrease, except those of you who live in the townships where the property valuation decreased. So it's complicated to predict both tax rates and this year the tax levy. Again, this is our levy comparison showing a $52,000 decrease. I would say that's a good place to start, and I don't think we would have any larger increase than that, but I also don't, we could have as much as maybe a $100,000 decrease. Without that increase, I showed just a 0.4 per thousand overall mill rate decrease, but that's actually going to be larger because we did not have the property valuations when this book went to print. Our tax levy over time, in this district, we have always had a tax rate lower than the state average, and that continues, and in fact, we're kind of widening that margin this year, or last year, and anticipate doing the same this year. And I guess I'd be remiss without saying what's going to happen a year from now. What we are seeing right now within our schools is a very stable student count, stable enrollment. Our high school, for example, has freshmen through senior classes, all plus or minus 200 students. Our inbound kindergarten classes, it seems like we're on this sort of cycle where one year they'll be a little larger and the next year they'll be a little smaller, and up and down like that, but overall it's kind of the same. Our student population isn't all that transitory. We have obviously people moving in and out of the district, but not like the numbers of some districts, and it's very stable now. Where we were a declining district for probably the first, I've been here 9 years, and probably the first 6 years of my experience we were a declining district, but I think we've plateaued and maybe even increased a little in the last couple of years. We know in the state budget that state aids will increase by 2.4% next year. The appropriation for state aids is increasing. These will not go to schools. These will go to property tax holders. Once again, that's simply a pass-through. The one place we will get additional revenue next year is in our per-pupil categorical aid, which is simply taking our number of students and multiplying it this year by $150 and next year by $250. And we kind of know that we will be another year in the framework, working through the framework of teachers and support staff, and that's going to cost us plus or minus $200,000 for salary increases. So again, there will be work to do without a lot of growing revenue in the district. That concludes my remarks tonight. As this is the budget hearing of the Board of Education, I would suggest opening the floor for any questions and comments prior to moving on and giving consideration to the tax levy.
Very well. Any questions or comments on the budget? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2015-2016 budget.
Tax levy.
Tax levy, I mean, yep.
So moved. Second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We advance on to authorization of school board to engage in legal counsel during the 2015-2016 fiscal year. We'll need a motion for that.
I'll move to authorize the school board to engage in legal counsel during the 2015-2016 fiscal year.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Authorize salaries for school board members for the 2015-2016 year.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the school board salaries for 2015-2016 to remain the same as this past year.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to speak against that, as I usually do. I just on principle think it should be a volunteer work, so I recommend we not do that.
All in favor of authorizing the salary as last year, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Me.
And now it's time to set the time and date for our next annual meeting.
Okay, John, that would be September, third Friday of September is, I mean,
Tuesday.
third Tuesday. I'm thinking about the third Friday count.
Warmer now.
Okay, the 20th, September 20th at 7 o'clock.
So we have a motion to set next time and date on September 20th at 7 PM. Do we have a second? Do we need a second for that?
Yes.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye. Now we accept the presentation from the floor for any business appropriate for our annual meeting. Does anybody have anything they wish to discuss? Yes.
Roger P. I see the Education Association is out asking everybody that graduated from the school in the past 100 years, I guess, whatever year you graduated, if you graduated in 2000, you should give $20. For 1950, $19.50. I'm wondering what that money is going to be used for. I was thinking, the first 70 people that give $20, all that's going to cover is the wage increase that you voted yourself last year.
One thing I wanted to point out, that the foundation is independent, board runs independently from this meeting. We have no control over the spending of that foundation or any way that they're a nonprofit organization, and they raise money for education in the district. And they're separately identified. So we have, whatever they're doing, you would have to attend their board to find out what that money would be going for. Because
it's going to get into the school system here.
well, we have no control what it's going to do.
Not necessarily. I think you need to look at the
I
charter
mean, they're
of
going
the foundation.
they ain't going to take it and give it to Sheboygan Falls.
No,
No.
it
No.
would go to scholarships, it would, go to a variety of, you need to look at the charter of the foundation and what they're charged with. And what they're charged with is enhancing the educational opportunities of the students in this district, as well as providing scholarships for students that are going on to further learning and education. So I guess I'd encourage you to look into that and explore that, and by all means, if you have questions, address those to that board.
It just bothers me that there's so much begging going on. The football kids, they're begging for money, and the basketball kids are begging for money, and everybody's begging and begging. And I was always brought up that you pay your own way, you don't beg. So that's just what I got to say.
Thank you. Is there any other information that someone would like to bring to the board? Hearing none, we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.